You know the drill. Your executive says, let's do an offsite. And suddenly you have 12 tabs open, 3 spreadsheets going, and a bad case of decision fatigue. This is where Troop shines, helping you plan without the chaos. Whether it's an offsite, a team retreat, or a last-minute meeting, Troop lets you compare locations, budgets, and travel options to make confident decisions. Troop keeps you organized every step of the way. So no more chasing info or juggling last-minute changes across 5 different platforms. If you are ready to take control of your meetings, head to leaderassistant.com/troop. That's leaderassistant.com/troop.
Hello, my name is Polly Todd, and my quote of the day is, "The greatest leader is not necessarily the one that does the greatest things. It usually is the one that makes his or her team great." And this is a quote that I heard at a town hall that we had a few years back, and it struck a chord with me because at that time, I think I was working for one of the greatest leaders in my company at the time.
The Leader Assistant podcast exists to encourage and challenge assistants to become confident, game-changing leader assistants.
Hey friends, welcome to the Leader Assistant podcast. It's your host, Jeremy Burrows, and this is episode 350. You can check out the show notes for this conversation at leaderassistant.com/350, leaderassistant.com/350. And today I'm excited to be speaking with Polly Todd. Polly has been a dedicated senior executive assistant with over 20 years of experience as a long-term contractor at a very large financial institution. So we're going to get into that whole experience for Polly, and we'll jump in here. Polly, welcome to the show. Tell us what part of the world you're in, and maybe what you like to do when you're not working.
Sure. So my name is Polly Todd. I live in London, in the heart of London, and when I'm not working, I horse ride. I love photography. And I love taking out or doing something special with my great nieces and nephews. So there's always something that I'm busy doing. And I love hiking too. So during lockdown, I created a group, siblings group, with my brothers, my sisters and my in-laws. And every so often now, we find a place in the UK and we hike. And that's a lovely way of us all getting together. And I love it. I love the outdoors. So that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. Do you like the rigorous, steep hikes, or the more the elevation is about the same the whole hike, and you're just kind of...
The elevation is about the same, because I don't like the hikes that my brothers do, but not so much me and not so much my sister. But I just love the outdoors. And I discovered more of the outdoors during COVID, really, because I drive everywhere. But I love it. We do it twice a year, and I love it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, super excited to have you on the show and chat a little about your story. Tell us how you got into the assistant role originally.
So originally, I worked in HR and recruitment, and that's something I decided I didn't really like. And then I got the opportunity to work for this large financial institution in London, and its head office is based in New York, to work for someone as a contractor. And I worked for her for 6 months, and then I created, in that time, a limited company. And then I realized that I could make a living and a career out of staying within this organization and moving around and working for all the different senior executives that would fly in, work in London for 2 years or a year, and I would look after them. So I created this role as a self-employed person, hence why I've called it a contractor, permanent person. And I've been there for 21 years doing that and moving around for senior people. So that's how it started and that's how it ended. So I was unique in a way because there were no others like me who spent that long in that kind of position as I did.
Wow. So
Yeah.
the whole time you were a contractor, but you changed executives pretty frequently?
Yes. So initially, it wasn't pretty frequently because I'd work with one person for a year or another for 2 years, another for 3 years, and stay within that contract because they would come into London, work in London for 3 years, and they'd go back to New York or
Mm,
wherever in the US they were based. But it wasn't. Well, I guess it was frequent because I worked for quite a lot of the senior executives, quite a lot. And you get to know every one of them and their personalities, etc.
yeah,
Good,
yeah.
bad, and indifferent.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did you have to re-up or renegotiate your contract
Yes.
every time a different executive would
Yes.
kind of cycle in and out?
Yes, I did. And that was the good thing about it because you're working for senior people, you can command quite a decent rate with them and
Hmm.
agree a decent rate, not rather than command it, but agree it. So that happened a lot. And again, with contractors, you don't get the holidays, you don't get the sick pay, you don't get all of that. And in some cases, I was able to negotiate that into my contract. So I was fortunate, I guess, in some ways
Yeah,
to be able to do that. I guess it depended on the seniority, though, of the executive at the time. So
gotcha.
yeah, yeah.
So any tips on negotiating or asking for, what you want or what you deserve?
Yeah, I think if you don't ask, you don't get. And if they really want you, they will, you know, they'll make it work or they'll make it happen for you. And that's happened in cases because I was word of mouth sometimes. And before the executive would come into London, someone would recommend that I work for him or her. And then we'd talk about what I want to get out of it. And they'd make it work. So I think it is. Yeah, agreeing and negotiating. And if you don't ask, you don't get. And
Hmm.
whatever you ask for, you can work around it if they don't agree it. So you walk away feeling happy. And that's happened to me on most occasions.
Nice.
So yeah.
Was there times when they would try to convert you to a full-time employee
Yes.
and how did that go? And did you resist
Yes.
it?
Yeah. Well, actually one of the guys who I got on very well with, he had moved into the exec role. He was promoted and I was there in that role anyway, so he inherited me, and we got on really well. And I helped him out of two sticky situations, and I never forgot that. And I think he never forgot that. So he asked me. He said, I'm going to be getting rid of people in the team, and me as a contractor probably wouldn't look great if he kept me and got rid of permanent people. So he tried to talk me into being permanent, and I agreed. Um, and I became permanent for 9 months because then he had to move to Florida. So,
Uh,
yeah, that happened. So that was probably the one and only time that I became permanent, only because I felt that I had to, and I never done it again.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I never opted for that option again.
Did you see a lot of, because I know a lot of assistants in large organizations, that's kind of Microsoft, for example. I know several assistants that worked at Microsoft, and they seemed like you almost had to get a contractor role, a temp contractor role first to get in, prove your worth or whatever, and then
Yes,
they would hopefully find a full-time role and they'd convert to full-time.
yes.
Did you see that a lot in your organization as well? Was that or
Yes, yes, that happened a lot. It happened a lot, actually. But for me specifically, I had other things that I was interested in outside. So between contracts, I'd go away and do whatever I needed to do, and then I'd inevitably get called back to take on a contract. So I did have breaks in between those contracts. It wasn't completely 21 years of constantly working for
right?
this company. I did have breaks and I enjoyed those breaks because I wanted to be able to do my other outside activities. But yes, I did see people being contractors and then becoming permanent a lot there.
Yeah. What was maybe your longest break?
Longest break was a year.
Okay. And did
Yeah,
you do
about a
your
year.
photography or travel or both, or what did you?
Travel, yeah, lots of travel, photography, and just doing me, I think, which I enjoy doing, things that I enjoy doing. So, um, yeah, I just did whatever I found that I wanted to do, I did it and enjoyed my existence, really, because it's not all about work. For me, anyway, it's not all
Yeah.
about work. You need to kind of find time to just enjoy living. And yeah, I did that a lot. So that's
Nice.
why this kind of unique role applied to me because I
Hmm.
enjoyed how it panned out, really. Yeah,
Nice. So
yeah.
did you ever have doubts or fear that you wouldn't get called back? You know what I mean? Like when you
No,
took those breaks?
no, I didn't. I didn't. I have a lot of great networking groups there,
Hmm.
and so no, I didn't have that fear at all. Not at all. I knew eventually I'd get called back. And in one case, I did. Somebody reached out to me. Somebody who worked at that corporate and had moved on to another almost similar company, and asked if I could look after her or support her in a new role in the new company. And I did go across and I worked for her for about 8 months. And then she wanted someone permanent, and I didn't want to do that. So again, same thing applies.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I left, and the permanent person took over. Yeah.
Wow. Because
So that happens.
I imagine a lot of people listening are like, oh, that's just too much stress or too much anxiety
Yes.
to not have that steady
Yes.
income or to wonder if you're going to get another contract.
I've heard that before a lot, actually. And I think for me, because I didn't have an immediate family as like children and to worry
Mm.
about, I probably paid off my house by then. And so I didn't have to worry about that in
Yeah.
effect. So, but I understand where people come from because I've heard that a lot, even my own friends. How can you do this? And how do you feel comfortable? Do you not have that fear? And no, no, I didn't. I didn't. I
Yeah.
think confidence played a big part of it as well, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be you got to have a lot of confidence
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
one to ask for, more money or more
Hmm.
time off or whatever to negotiate these
Yes.
contracts consistently, but
Yes.
then yeah, as
Yeah.
well trying to take time off and travel and do your own thing and then having the confidence that you can get back in and jump right back in
Yes.
and get going and then help the next
Yes.
executive.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, what were kind of, since you cycled in and out of different contracts and different executives frequently, what's maybe your best tip for onboarding a new executive? Like jumping off on the right foot with that new executive.
Just turn this on. My best tip. I get to understand them for what, for instance, one of the first executives, I asked her what kind of coffee she liked, and she liked a Starbucks latte, and so did I. So what I would do, my best tip was always to bring her one in the mornings, and that's how we became quite good friends as well as executive and EA. But my best tip was really to understand them, understand how they operate, understand how they work. You get into their heads, and so you can be like one step ahead of them all the time, I think. And because it is the EA that helps to make the executive who they are. So it is important to understand how they operate, I think. I think
Nice.
that's right.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, kind of like that. I like that. Because some people say, well, I'm not going to get coffee for my executive. I'm not, I'm more than that,
No,
whatever.
no,
But it's like
no.
the way you said it, it's like the relationship building, the
Yeah,
camaraderie,
yes,
the connection and allows you to build that trust
yeah,
and be able to open up, kind of an icebreaker for those strategic
yeah,
conversations.
yeah, that's right. And I always ask them actually, what keeps them? Somebody asked, once told me it's always a good icebreaker to ask them what keeps them up at night.
Hmm.
What keeps you up at night? And then work with them with whatever keeps them up at night. Yeah, and some people say, well, nothing. I just kind of dismiss it, and there are others that will tell you that they think about certain things, and that's what keeps them up at night. And you work with them with that. Once you know that's what their problem is, you work with them, and I found that works for me, or worked for me. Yeah,
Nice.
it's a good icebreaker.
Yeah. So what were the biggest challenges being being a contractor? Like what were over the years, what are a couple of the things that were the most difficult in your role?
The difficult one if you're being micromanaged, and in one role I was, and I found that quite hard because when you're micromanaged or managed, it makes you feel like you're doing something wrong constantly. And when you've got that person constantly watching how you operate, you can lose confidence. And I felt that in one of the roles that I've had. So I found that to be a challenge, but I also learned from it. So yeah, being micromanaged, and I'm sure most assistants would probably feel they've had that in their lives at one time or another. But I found that in my 20 years for the one person that I worked for in that time, that
How,
made me feel somehow inadequate.
right.
In yeah. So
How
that
did you navigate it? Like what was your, you know, was it something that you just kind of had to
I
manage
think I
and
I think I put up with it because it was a role that was 9 months, and I
oh,
think I
okay.
just yeah. Yeah, I kind of worked my way through those 9 months and just left and moved on to work for somebody else. So, yeah,
Well, that's
that's
I guess that's one of the challenges, but also one of the benefits of being a
yes.
contractor. You're
Well,
like,
it
you
is a
know what?
benefit.
It's only nine
Absolutely.
months. If I can survive 9 months, I'm good.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, what any other tips on, on that confidence that you built over your career and how assistants listening that are struggling with confidence and want to grow their confidence, any tips on how to be a more confident assistant?
That's a good question, actually. I think for me, it was over years that I became a very confident assistant. And I guess during that time, in some cases, I didn't put up with nonsense. And I'll give you an example of that. I was tasked to work for a very senior guy who came over from Rome for a year. And he had he was eclectic, but he had a very kind of he's Italian, so he was the way he spoke can sometimes be a little bit demeaning. And I remember he came over and he shouted at me one day.
Mm,
He didn't know how to turn on his laptop. He didn't know anything. He knew his job. He just didn't know the other things like how do you turn the laptop on? How do you do this? How do you do that? But he shouted one day, and I thought, no, I'm not having that. But I went away, slept on it, came back the next morning, and the first thing I did was say, can I have a word? And we sat in an office and we spoke about it. And he said, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. But being Italian, sometimes my voice is it's outlandish, it's loud, and it's this and it's that. And I know it's an excuse, but he
right.
apologized. And after that, I mean, life with him was quite something. Working with him was quite something because I didn't want him to think I was a pushover. I didn't want him to think that he could come in there and start shouting like that at an assistant. And that's happened more than once to me in that company. Um, but I've always learned or been taught to nip it in the bud before it gets worse. And I did that and it worked. And that is about having confidence. And I think having confidence means speaking to your leader when you do feel that you need to.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Or if you've got peers, speak to your peers on how to manage certain things or manage certain situations. I've done that a lot. I've seen that happen a lot in my time. Speak to your peers.
Yeah, so it's kind
So,
of it's like you know what you need to do. You
yes.
know you need to have say something, it's not right, whatever. But just
Yeah.
having that courage to
Yeah.
say it and speak up instead of letting it fester.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome, Polly. Well, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate you taking time to be on the show. Is there any last words or anything you want to share with assistants of the world?
No, just keep doing what you're doing because as an assistant for all those years, I know what it's like. Sometimes you have good days, good bad days. Sometimes assistants ends up in tears for some reason or another. But it's a hard world for us out there. Actually, it really is. And I think the art is to get to know your leader, understand how he or she works or operates, and it really is sometimes thinking ahead and thinking for them and being what's the word when you're in sync with your leader, because that helps a lot, I think,
Nice.
in my experience.
Well said, Polly.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Is there a
Thank you.
good place for people to reach out and connect if they want to say hi?
Yeah, on LinkedIn, I think,
LinkedIn?
if they do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'll
Yeah.
share your LinkedIn profile on the show notes at leaderassistant.com/350. And yeah, thanks again for being on the show. And thank you everyone
Thank
for
you.
listening. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. Take care.
Please review on Apple Podcasts. GoBulls.com.
The ping pong back and forth game of manually scheduling meetings is unnecessary and inefficient in today's automated world. It's time to embrace calendar automation for increased productivity and capacity. You Can Book Me by Capacity is my favorite automated booking solution. It's a game changer for me and my executive. You can manage scheduling for your entire executive team, send automated reminders, add buffer time between appointments, and much more. You Can Book Me integrates with your existing Microsoft and Google calendars so you can add automation without disrupting your current workflow. Go to leaderassistant.com/calendar to learn more and sign up for a free trial of this powerful scheduling automation tool. That's leaderassistant.com/calendar.